sister, a daughter, or a wife. Islam gave her all her rights in her life. A mother, a sister, a daughter, or a wife. Islam gave her all her rights in her life.
Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim. We ask Allah to send His mercy and blessings on Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him. And we ask Allah to guide us, to strengthen us, to grant us knowledge and wisdom, to help us in our difficult times in life, to accept our good deeds, forgive us our sins, and to grant us Jannah, insha'Allah. Welcome to another episode of Women's Issues. And in today's episode, we're talking about something that Allah has made permissible, but it is actually disliked, and that is divorce. Now, Allah has set up a beautiful system when it comes to divorce, which covers the rights of both men and women. And it makes it easy, not easy, but it allows for there to be reconciliation. In many countries, when you get divorced, that's it, it's all done, it's over. It's very difficult to go back. But in Islam, Allah, in His wisdom, has given us a system that allows for that reconciliation. We've got 3 strikes. It's like 3 strikes and you're out. Now, when it comes to divorce, it's the man who, it's his right to utter divorce. And men need to be very careful about when they do this. They shouldn't be doing it in anger, and they should not be doing it while their wife is menstruating, when she's on her period. It's forbidden for him to give talaq at that time. But let's say, for instance, the marriage isn't going well and the husband wants a divorce, so he issues divorce. What happens then is that there is a waiting period, which is called the iddah, the waiting period, and that's 3 months. It depends on the situation of the woman, and in this period, it's advisable for the couple to try and reconcile their differences, to see if they do want to continue with the marriage. Now, when it comes to a woman who is still has her period, then the waiting period is for 3 menstrual cycles. For a woman who doesn't have menstruation, she doesn't have a period anymore, then it's 3 lunar months. If he issues divorce and his wife is pregnant, then the iddah is until she actually delivers the baby. We've got a report. I've got a lot more to tell you about this. We'll get to the other strikes. We've looked at strike 1. We'll look at the other 2 after the report. Let's take a look.
Mother, a sister, a daughter, or a wife. Islam gave her all.
Marriage life should be filled with mercy, compassion, and tranquility. Marriage is a great blessing. Each partner in marriage has certain rights and responsibilities, which are to be fulfilled in a loving way, in the best interest of the family. Unfortunately, this is not always the case. When a marriage is in danger, couples are advised to pursue all possible remedies to rebuild the relationship. If after thoroughly evaluating the marriage, you find that there is no other option than divorce, there is no shame in proceeding to the next step. Divorce is allowed as the last option, but it is discouraged. The Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, says, "Of all the lawful things, divorce is the most hated by Allah." Allah gives divorce as an option because sometimes it is truly in the best interest of all concerned. Nobody needs to remain in a situation that causes personal distress, pain, and suffering. In such cases, it is more merciful that you each go your separate ways, peacefully and emancipably. Islam requires a 3-month waiting period, called iddah, before the divorce is finalized. During this time, the couple has time to calm down, evaluate the relationship, and perhaps reconcile. Sometimes decisions are made in haste and anger, and later one or both parties have regrets. During the waiting period, the husband and wife are free to resume their relationship at any time, thus ending the divorce process without a need for a new marriage contract. Another reason for the waiting period is that it is a way of determining whether the wife is expecting a child. If the wife is pregnant, the waiting period continues until after she has delivered the child. During the entire waiting period, the wife has the right to remain in the family home, and the husband is responsible for her support. If the waiting period is complete without reconciliation, the divorce is complete and takes full effect. The husband's financial responsibility for the wife ends, and she often returns to her own family home. However, the husband continues to be responsible for financial needs of any children. Divorce is permissible in Islam as a last resort if it is not possible to continue a marriage. Certain steps need to be taken to ensure that all options have been exhausted and both parties are treated with respect and justice.
So, as we saw in the clip, it is advised that husband and wife should stay in the same home while the iddah period is there, during the iddah period, as a way of reconciling and so forth. So, if they do reconcile, the marriage continues as normal. If they don't reconcile, then the marriage has finished. If they do reconcile, they go back to normal. Then later on, if the husband decides to announce divorce again, then the same process will happen. There's the 3-month iddah period. They can end it at the end of that, or they can continue and go back to their married life. Then comes the third strike. So if the husband, for the third time, says divorce, that's it. It's all over. Third strike, you're out, no more. No more chances. This is an irrevocable divorce. And they must separate. They can't marry again. They can't go back to each other. The only time when it is possible for them to remarry is for the wife to go and marry another man. And it has to be a legal marriage, not just on paper. It has to be a real marriage, that they're actually in a marriage. Then maybe that husband dies or he divorces her. Then if she wanted to go back to her first husband and he wants that, then that is permissible. So we've got a lot of opportunities here for husbands and wives to continue their marriage. I think it's important that people remember why they first fell in love. At the beginning, there's always going to be some reason why you wanted to marry that person. And particularly in the iddah period, we should be going back and thinking about what was special about this person. Why did I fall in love with them? Okay, maybe they have faults. I have faults. Can I overcome those faults? We don't want to just jump into divorce very rashly. It has to be serious issues that cause us to want to divorce, because otherwise we're just breaking relationships for the sake of breaking them. Now, Allah has not only given the right to men to ask for divorce, but women, wives, can also initiate divorce. And that is, there's a couple of processes. And one is Qulla, where they both agree, both husband and wife agree that the marriage can't work, there's no point in continuing, so let's just end, both go our separate ways. And in that situation, then the wife will give back either all or some of the mahr, the dowry that she was given when they first got married, and then they move on and all is fine. And then the next one is the other way where a wife can initiate divorce is through the court, it's through the judge, where if there has been gross neglect, abuse, maybe he's a drug addict, maybe the husband has left Islam, she can then take it to the court and it's up to the judge. Even if the husband doesn't want the divorce, if the judge says yes, divorce, then the divorce will be accepted and the marriage is over. So Allah has given women the right to also seek divorce. As always, Allah is always fair and just. We have another report. Let's take a look.
A mother, a sister, a daughter or a wife, Islam gave her all her rights in her life. A mother, a sister, a daughter or a wife, Islam gave her all her rights in her life. A sister, a daughter or a wife, Islam gave her all her rights in her life. A mother, a sister, a daughter or a wife, Islam gave her all her rights in her life. Mother, a sister, a daughter, or a wife, Islam gave her all her rights in her life. A mother, a sister, a daughter, or a wife, Islam gave her all her rights in her life. A sister, a daughter, or a wife, Islam gave her all her rights in her life. A mother, a sister, a daughter, or a wife, Islam gave her all her rights in her life.
Unfortunately, a lot of non-Muslims think that Islam is unjust to women. But I'd like to make a point here that when it does come to divorce, the woman gets to retain all her assets, her property, her money. Whatever is hers is hers. She doesn't share it with her husband. He doesn't take everything, which used to happen pre-Islam. The husband would take all her wealth. And even in today's society around the world, in divorce law, generally the assets are divided. Maybe not 50-50, but they are divided in some respect so that the husband gets some of what the wife has and vice versa. This doesn't happen in Islam. Whatever the woman has is hers. Unless, of course, we're talking in khulla, which I was mentioning earlier. But in terms of if she has a house, it's hers, she keeps it. If she has money, it's hers, she keeps it. It's not separated. So again, in Allah's mercy and justice to women, He has given them their rights. I think it's a really important point to remember. And also, when it comes to how we should go about divorce, especially for men, that Allah instructs men to look after their women, to be kind and just to their women. And also after divorce, they should also treat them with kindness. Because at the end of the day, most couples have children. So she is going to be the mother of your children and always will be. There should always still be some connection. If you've got children, you're going to be seeing each other. So you need to be dealing with each other justly. It's very important. Brothers and sisters, we've got a short break, so stay tuned. I will see you after the break, inshallah. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
A sister, a daughter, or a wife, Islam gave her all her rights in her life. A mother, a sister, a daughter, or a wife, Islam gave her all her rights in her life.
Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh, and welcome back, brothers and sisters. I'm delighted to introduce our guest for today, who is Sister Yasmin Yusuf. She is the founder and CEO of Salam Project. Actually, she wears a lot of hats, mashallah. She's also an author. So welcome, sister. It's lovely to have you on the program. Assalamu alaikum.
Alaikum assalam, Sister Vanessa. Thank you for having me.
It's great. Thank you so much for taking the time to join us today. We've got a very important topic, which I hope that we can help sisters out with the questions that we have to get through today. So let's get started. My first question is, when should a couple get divorced? In what sort of situations is divorce appropriate?
Yes, great question. So one of the first things we learn as Muslims is that we are held accountable. And for that to be in effect, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala created the heavens and the earth and set the scale and balance the scale, wada al-mizan. Which, and with that come a lot of roles and definition of roles and responsibilities and rights. So two people get married when they are able and willing to fulfill the rights and responsibilities of each other. So when something goes wrong with that, there is a violation of rights, there is inability or an unwillingness to fulfill those responsibilities, and there is a denial of rights, then divorce is an option. If we talk about the inability first, so there are numbers of reasons where the man or the woman in a marriage are unable to fulfill the responsibilities, and that causes a denial to the other person's rights. So in that situation, of course, there is a lot of guidance around support for each other and trying to have the issues that cause the inability fixed so that they can have a normal life together. And it's ultimately up to the husband and wife to decide and say, you know what, I can live with that. I want to support my husband or my wife. This is beyond their control, so I want to support them and we can have a normal life. Or it's ultimately up to the person as well whose rights are denied to say, you know what, I cannot take it. And Allah doesn't hold us accountable beyond our limits or outside of our abilities. So if a person says, oh, I'm unable to live with that, then they can initiate the process of divorce. If there is, on the other side, an unwillingness to fulfill the rights of a person, then this is, of course, a problem. And it needs to be addressed right away. And it can go anywhere from just denying the basic rights of the spouse, or it can even go to the level of abuse and transgression, and it can go really bad. So in that case, of course, mediations can happen, legal action can be taken, imams, family come in to guide. And if it doesn't get resolved, then under no circumstances is anyone required or obligated to live under circumstances they cannot tolerate or violation of rights. And of course, divorce would be a solution in that case.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, very interesting. And I think sometimes, well, not just sometimes, but a lot of times, the willing or the wanting to get divorced is because Shaitan's just whispering to us because he wants us to break the marriage. So, you know, as you said, by having that period where, you know, they talk, they get others involved to try and fix the problem, is a way of letting Shaitan not win, which is the goal as well. And
yes,
what I mean, I mentioned earlier in the first segment of the program about how men have the right to utter divorce. Why can't women? I know I also mentioned how women can initiate divorce, but they can't actually utter divorce to begin with. So why is that?
Yes. All right, so I want to try to shy away from the typical answer that a woman is emotional, and if she can do that, then she will initiate divorce without cause or irrationally. So what we're trying to when we try to understand this, we can try to understand it from the bigger picture of what Islam is trying to accomplish first, and also the marriage itself. But let me start by actually celebrating and appreciating that Islam, first of all, allowed divorce, as well as made it in the hands of the man and woman, not a matter of the state and the legal system, if, of course, everything goes right. Because if you look at the history of divorce, you will find that it went all the way from being totally forbidden legally and religiously till, for example, in England in the 17th century, it was by an action of the parliament. You had to bring your case into the parliament to decide upon, and giving the privileges to the man to ask for it, and making it almost impossible for women to have it, to all the way to, you know, Italy, for example, legalized divorce in the 1970s, and the legal divorce law in England was enacted in 1857. So we need to really celebrate that Islam allowed divorce, and it made it in the hands of men and women. Now, why men and not women? So we need, again, to understand the bigger picture. So Islam puts rules, roles, and responsibilities for any type of interaction. So if two people are doing business together, there are rules and regulations for that. If two people, if one is in debt to another, there are rules for that. If one is fostering a child, an orphan, there are rules for that. And of course, in marriage as well, there are roles and defined responsibilities for each. And in the marriage, the man holds the bigger responsibility. So again, we're looking at the bigger picture. So they are responsible for providing financially for the family. They are responsible for protecting the family, for doing any physically taxing work, and so on and so forth. And with that leadership role come a privilege of, they are able to, the divorce is in their hand. Having said all that, like you mentioned, women can initiate divorce as well if things are not working out well for them and their needs need to be heard and addressed, and if things were not resolved to the way that satisfy her. She's not obligated to live in an abusive marriage or a marriage that she's not happy about. And we need to understand as well that roles and responsibilities or the rights are not just financial, they are physical, they are emotional, they are wider than the typical picture. Mm-hmm. So I just want to repeat that I'm happy that Islam made it legal and made it possible and made it in the hands of the people involved and not a matter of the state to decide upon for your life.
Yeah, it's a very good point. I mean, in Catholicism, you have to go to the Pope to get permission to divorce. So, as you said,
Yes.
Islam has made it fair and right and just for both males and females, both husband and wife, which is great. Now, what should I was also mentioning about the iddah period, and that during this period, when there is divorce, you've got the waiting period, and the wife should still remain in the home, and the husband should remain in the same home. Why is that? Mm-hmm.
Well, obviously, divorce is not an easy matter, and it comes with a lot of emotional baggage. And of course, it's not an easy decision to make. So when a husband makes a decision or the wife makes a decision, and they are in that waiting period, I personally believe that it's really healthy for them to be together to get a real feel of that feels like and looks like to be not, company of each other and enjoy the company of each other and depend on each other and support each other. So they get a real feel of that. And in that waiting period as well, any hard emotions that were hyped up during the divorce process can calm down, and the thoughts, the rationality can come back, and they might want to revisit that decision. So that's really one key element of why they need to be, or why it's healthy to be together and stay together, that they might actually just decide not to fulfill or finalize the divorce because they realize what it feels actually like. Mm-hmm. And in the event that they say, yes, that's it, that's what we want, and it's happening, then at least it makes it gradual. It makes that breakup gradual, and it gives each party a chance to think about what they want to do next, and who's moving, and how they can get the support they need to make that move easier. So I feel it's really practical. It's really humane. It's really compassionate as well, because the whole concept of marriage in Islam is built on mawadda and rahma, that compassion and that understanding and support.
That's a really good point that you've raised, because, in other countries, in non-Muslim countries, as you said, when there is divorce, it's just sort of immediate, and then you've got to immediately look for somewhere to live, and your whole life just turns upside down. It's very traumatic.
Yes.
And I think also for the children, just to try and keep some sort of normality if there are children involved as well, while this whole process is going through, and whether their husband and wife are deciding whether to stay together or not. Yeah.
Absolutely.
And unfortunately, I think everywhere in the world, there's a big stigma attached to divorce. And I think it's becoming less and less in the West, but certainly in Muslim countries, it is still there. That stigma is still quite strong. So what would you advise for a divorce, a woman who's now divorced? How can she sort of overcome that stigma of being a divorcee so that she can just get on and move on with her life?
Wow, that's a big question. And it's a really good question. Thank you for asking that. So it all goes back to the belief system of the person and the society. From positive psychology or from psychology, we learn that emotions are built or they stem from our beliefs. So for example, if you have a belief that a violation of your rights has happened, then then that will make you angry. So anger comes from that belief. If you believe that divorce is a shameful action and that it's the woman's fault, for example, whatever, so that belief will cause you to be embarrassed, and that will cause the action of trying to avoid people or not being confident and not being confident about the future. So that has two folds then to fix that stigma. Two folds. One is the resilience of the woman herself in understanding her beliefs around divorce and about life and about herself, to understand that, you know, it's not the end of the world. For example, what are her beliefs around financial stability, for example, that she absolutely needed this person to support her financially, and without him she is in a total loss and she can't do anything about her life. If that's the belief guiding her, then the emotions would be fear and anxiety, and the actions will follow in the wrong direction. However, if she builds better beliefs around financial stability and independence, and of course about in belief in Razaq subhanahu wa ta'ala, Allah the giver, and that then she can feel more stable and more secure, and her actions can follow in trying to find resources of income that can help her out. And that goes for every other belief around the divorce status. It's belief about around divorce itself, because for example in Mauritania, divorce is not seen as a bad thing or a shameful thing for women. In fact, after the iddah finishes, there is a party that's held for the women, and I looked that up and I talked to a friend who's from Mauritania to verify this, and she said yes, it started as a habit that the fathers in the family wanted to support their daughters when they got divorced, so they wanted to celebrate them after the iddah ended, and it became that social norm that after the iddah there is that party, they do henna, they do songs, they celebrate her as a mark of a new beginning. So this is the belief in the society. So now, so the individual has the personal responsibility for their own lives, of building and modifying their beliefs so that their emotions can fall in place and they can be resilient and they can be in control of their lives, and their actions will be more sure, and they will be able to move on better with their lives. Even ideas around or beliefs around I am not going to be loved again, I'm not going to find a person to trust again. All these are beliefs that cause the anxiety and the fear and the sense of loss and the sadness and the depression and all that of course are obstacles to taking action. And on the society level as well, we need to do the same. So writers, scholars, imams, especially during the Jum'ah congregations where they have the tension of a lot of people, the grassroots level that we want to reach, influencers on social media, they need as well to harness and enforce right beliefs so that the society can feel the right feelings, and then the normal actions can happen and moving on would be better.
Yeah, that's beautiful advice. Thank you so much. It's really important that, you know, for women that we do take on board what you just said. It's really important. Unfortunately, sister, we've come to the end of the program, so we'll have to leave it there. But thank you so much for your beautiful words of wisdom and advice. It's been very beneficial, and may Allah reward you and bless you. And inshallah, we'd love to have you back on the program again soon, inshallah.
Thank you for having me and for tackling such very important topics.
Inshallah. Jazakallah khair. Assalamu alaikum. Well, brothers and sisters, as we can see there, that there's a lot involved when it comes to divorce. And I'd like to just say something to the brothers, that it's not a joke. You know, issuing a divorce is not a joke at all. And it's actually one of the things that we should not be joking about. If you joke about it, it is a divorce. So please be careful. Don't give divorce during in anger, and don't do it while you are joking, because it will stand as a divorce. And also for sisters, it is important that we all remember that Allah has said, if a married woman seeks or asks for a divorce without a valid reason, then she's not going to find the fragrance of paradise. That's a really important point, sisters. So only seek divorce if you really, really have to. We've come to the end of the program, so thank you for watching, and until next time, take care and always remember Allah. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
A mother, a sister, a daughter, or a wife, Islam gave her all her rights in her life. A mother, a sister, a daughter, or a wife, Islam gave her all rights in her life. Islam gave her all her rights in her life.